Hey everyone, this is my video journal for week 7 on the SLP interview, and what I learned from it, what I took away from it, and how I plan on using this in the future. First, I want to say that this interview with my speech language pathologist was really good. We have a really good one at our school, which is very helpful. I see her working hard daily and in my classroom and collaborating, as I'm an RSP teacher at a school. At least weekly, but a lot of times daily too. The biggest takeaway that I got is how they assess each student differently, with ASD, and how there's so many different types of ASD and, behaviors of ASD and how they go about that differently. And it kind of all relates back to one thing, and that one thing being data. I was drilled that into my head in college. You must take data, and all that. And then kind of sometimes you're like, okay, I've heard that a lot, but now you begin to realize how important that data is when you're assessing a student or trying to come up with the best way to improve that student. And I think that was just my biggest takeaway, is how differently each student is, and how you might assess one student different than the other because they test better this way, or just so many different strategies that are used. How I'm going to apply this to the future, and I just see myself continuing to want to collaborate with those speech language pathologists, just because I have a lot of students on my caseload that have autism, and just being able to get that relationship with our speech language pathologists and understand our students differently, and how one thing can one little change for a student, or one little different strategy may really help out our students. I think that the more that we know about it is very important. The other thing that stood out to me is how much in communication our speech language pathologist is with our parents, and it makes sense. She talked about how the parents are the ones that see that student the most, outside of school, and being able to see what might work at home, and then translating that into the classroom, and interviewing them, and just staying in contact with them at all times. I talked about the data when she let me know that she's the one that's in control of taking all of her data. She goes into the classrooms, she sits in the back, she observes the students, and she does that weekly. But what also was really cool is quarterly, the progress monitoring that we have to do, she sends that out home, quarterly to her parents. So they're getting, well aware of how that student's doing, how that student's progressing, and, all of that good information. 1 second. The other thing that was, really cool too, was how she talked about her goals that she has for her students, that, when they don't work, just the different strategies that she'll use. Like, okay, today, we're going to work outside. Maybe the student works better outside, or, just getting them in that comfortable environment to assess the student in the best way. The functional behavior, assessment is, it's really interesting, and the one that she likes to, use the most is ADOS. And, not that I'm really familiar with it, but I've learned a lot from her. And I just think that all of us teachers need to understand how important it is to have that relationship with our speech language pathologist.